All right. Shalom, shalom, Akim. First and foremost, as always, I'm going to start off by giving all the praises, honor, and the glory to Yahweh, Bahashem, Yahweh Shai, Bahashem Rakakwadash. The honors to the apostles and then to the elders, Great Millstone, GMS, for telling me this truth. Honors to the brethren and the Akim that has been pushing out this truth with all sincerity and in faith into Wadi Yahweh, Bahashem, Yahweh Shai, for allowing me once again to come back with another lesson. And the title of this lesson, I guess I'll just keep it simple. The title of this lesson is simply going to be For What If Some Did Not Believe? Okay. And, it was just um, just scrolling throughout the internet throughout the day, right? And, there's always something popping up like um, every now and then you'll get these little clips or reels, people saying, that the Bible isn't real and that it's just a book full of fairy tales and you know uh, there is no chosen people, or there is no God or there's no none, there's all these just ignorant statements that people like to make. And then you go throughout the scriptures, because for everything that is said, there's always something to say back at it. Okay, there's a response for almost everything. And when we go throughout the scriptures and we read certain scriptures like this, is the book of Romans chapter 3 verse 3, and it says, "For what if some did not believe?" And we're gonna have that. We're gonna have a whole lot of it. Okay, a whole lot of people throughout the world that are gonna say certain things. Especially like in the beginning when you're in the faith. People will say like certain stuff, and then you be like, nah, bro, this gotta be it. Because our whole lives we're all looking for something. Something bigger and stronger than us. And some people turn to the Most High. Some people turn to, you know, uh, science or whatever, right? But we know that, as we read these scriptures, it's undeniable that these words that we read are faithful and true as the scriptures say. And you're gonna have people that respond to what I said just now, and be like, no, I don't believe it. There's no way. I just don't see it. It looks like it's just a bunch of nonsense in a book right now. Or at least to me. People are gonna say certain stuff, but if they don't believe, it's okay, because it says, "For what if some did not believe? Shall their unbelief make the faith of the Most High without effect?" Meaning, like you not believing is not gonna change the. It's not gonna change anything. It's not gonna affect the course of the river. It's not gonna stop anything. It's not gonna stop from the Heavenly Father doing what He says He's going to do when we read the scriptures. But for what if some did not believe? So what if you don't believe that, that the one that you ignorantly call Jesus Christ is a so-called black man? You have people who won't believe that. Or what if you don't believe that the ones who you call so-called blacks, Latinos, and Native Americans, those are the Israelites according to the Bible? And then you'll have people that would be like, no, there's no way, not them, anyone else but not us. But when you go throughout history, there's all kinds of, art, relics, sculptures, throughout the whole world documenting that we are those people. You know, it's undeniable. But for what if you didn't believe it? It doesn't matter, because that's not going to change the Most High's plan. That's not going to change nothing. And when you read verse 4, it says, "God forbid, yea, let the heavenly Father be true, but every man a liar, as it is written, that thou mayest be justified in thy sayings, and that mayest overcome with our judgment." And that's the thing, is that we are going to be justified in the things we say, because it's not our words. These are the words of the Most High, Yahweh Bashem Yahweh Shai. All right, and we also will overcome, any kind of, hey, people bash us, us being out on the highways and hedges, though, especially the ones that know us or know about us, and they were either in the truth before, or they were, they're just scoffers, which is, for the most part every single time. But it does we're still going to overcome, because look, we're still going to be out there. We're still going to be teaching. We're still going to be preaching. We're still going to do what we do until the time of the end comes. Okay. um, this is the book of Second Ezra. Let's go here. Whoops. Second Ezra, chapter 15, verse 1, and it says, "Behold, speak thou in the ears of my people the words of prophecy," and that's what we do. "Which I will put in thy mouth, saith the Lord," and that's the one who, it's never us that, say we're gonna do this or say that, and it's all the Spirit at the end of the day. Okay, it's all the Most High Yahweh Shai orchestrating the show. And it says, "And cause them to be written in paper, for they are faithful and true." See, and these words are faithful and these words are true. Every last to the period. And it says, "And fear not the imagination against thee, and let not the incredulity of them trouble thee that speak against thee," which incredulity is the inability to believe. Like, it's like almost saying you telling somebody bad news, and they're just like, "Man, no way, I can't believe it, I won't believe it," or you know or like trying to teach somebody, 2 + 2 = 4, but if they're a jackass and they want to say it's 5, you can't change their mind. That's a lot of people. They're so set on one thing, and they're unable to believe something else, especially something that does make sense, but they're just so stuck in their what they call their beliefs, or whatnot, that they just refuse to accept it. And that's a lot of our people. They're stuck on Jesus Christ, and they are unable to believe what is written. Okay. And it says, "And let not the incredulity," which is the you just not being able to believe, "of them trouble thee that speak against thee." Why? It says, "For all the unfaithful shall die in their unfaithfulness." So at the end of the day, all these people, whether the Heavenly Father opens their minds and their ears to receive this truth, they're gonna die in wherever they're at in their lives, whether they believe in the Most High, whether they don't believe, or whether they believe in this or whether they believe in that. You'll die at the end of the day. Okay, your blood will be upon you. And you need always with people. You need evidence with these people. You need to show them. There's a lot of the things that we speak of from the scriptures that I don't, and I know there's no brother out there that has evidence of the things that we speak. We don't have any concrete proof, but that's why that's where faith comes in. Okay. And a lot of people, when they don't see they got to see it to believe it, they won't even give it a time of day. And in them doing that, they're going to be hurting themselves in the end. But this is St. John chapter 20, verse 26. And I'm going to go back to what Yahushua said unto his disciples, in particular Thomas. We'll start at 24. It says, this is St. John 20 and 24. "But Thomas, one of the 12, called Didymus, was not with them when Yahushua came. And other disciples therefore said unto him, We have seen the Lord. But he said unto them, Except I shall see in his hands the print of the nails, and put my finger into the print of the nails, and thrust my hand through into his side, I will not believe." So this is a great example with Thomas of him having incredulity. He was not able and was refusing to believe that the disciples The one his brothers, they saw the Lord and he didn't. So he had incredulity. He had the inability to believe. He had to see the Lord. He said, he wanted to put his hands in the side and and feel it and see it in order to him for himself to believe it. And in verse 26, and it says, and after 8 days, again his disciples were in with, or were within, were within, and Thomas with them. Um, and Thomas with them. Then came Yahushua, the doors being shut, and stood in the midst, and said, "Peace be unto you." Which in other words, he said, "Shalom." I'm here. Yeah, I'm here, man. Then saith he to Thomas, "Reach thither thy finger, and behold my hands, and reach hither thy side, and thrust it into my side, and be not faithless, but believing." You see? And it says, "And Thomas answered and said unto him, My Lord, my power." Yahushua saith unto him, "Thomas, because thou hast seen me, thou hast believed. Blessed are they that have not seen and yet have believed." You see? And that's where the faith comes in. Faith is the substance of things hoped for, the evidence of things not seen. Something you have never seen, haven't even had a glimpse or a sneak peek at it. You haven't seen zero, zip, nada, nothing at all, but you still have faith in it. And that's what we have faith is these scriptures, these words that are here for our learning. All right. But I'm gonna go ahead and end it here through the Spirit, brothers. Just a quick little lesson. I pray this lesson was edifying, exhorting, and comforting. And as always, I want to give all praises, honor, and glory to Yahweh Bashim Yahweh Shai Bashim Akakwadash. And it's on to the next one. Shalom.